afternoon, everyone. There was a natural lull there, so I thought I would fill it. It is my pleasure to introduce to you all today an old friend and colleague, Lucas Meachem. I had the pleasure of working with Lucas Meachem now 20 years ago at the Ohio Light Opera. Several years ago. A few years ago at the Ohio Light Opera, where, believe it or not, I was lifted up on one of his shoulders in a performance. It was one of the most exhilarating and terrifying moments of my life. About 2 or 3 years after that, we also worked at the Central City Opera together, where I had the privilege of singing Morales to his Escamillo, a brilliant Escamillo, in our young artist production, I guess it was, of Carmen. So I'm just so excited to see Lucas 5 years later in this very place in North Carolina to welcome him home. I'm sure most of you saw his and his wife Irina's incredible recital last evening. Not only was it just spectacular, vocally and artistically and pianistically, but I really appreciated how they curated the recital so that we got a glimpse of the entire trajectory of his career. You will see much of that here. It is so impressive. Grammy Award-winning baritone Lucas Meachem is one of the most accomplished, in-demand singers of the moment, captivating audiences around the world with his earnest, appealing baritone, the New York Times, and commanding presence, the San Francisco Chronicle. A rock star of opera, Opera Pulse, Meachem's 2018 to 19 season includes 3 highly anticipated North American house debuts with Washington National Opera, Canadian Opera Company, and the Michigan Opera Theater. You'll also notice on this resume some wonderfully prestigious opera houses, including the Royal Opera House, the Vienna Staatsoper, the Norske Opera, Glyndebourne Festival Opera, and the Sempopera in Dresden. I don't know if you know this, but I saw you 5 years ago at the Royal Opera House sing Count Almaviva in Notte di Figaro.
Why didn't you come say hello?
Well, because I'm always running around and it's crazy, and I was probably like on break somewhere, and then I was running back to something.
Yeah,
but anyway, I probably Facebooked you or something.
Yeah.
But anyway, I have to say, his Italian recitative is next to none. I mean, look how Sir Thomas Allen, this guy knows his Italian recitative, and many other things.
Thanks.
But without further ado, I would like to introduce you to Lucas Meachem and Irina Meachem for a wonderful masterclass.
Hey,
thank you.
Thank you so much. Thanks. Come in, forward, please. Come in. Hi. Thank you. Thank you, Mark, for reading off that page so beautifully. I'm sorry, I have to give him a hard time because we go way back, so I'm sorry. So I am so excited to be here with all of you. I'm so excited to talk to you and just, pass on a little of what I've learned over the years. And honestly, what I really hope you all take from this week that I'm going to be here is that in the beginning, I teach you sort of my ideas, and I sort of level the playing field for everyone. My whole process is that when you breathe, you can sing. It's just simple. And everything else that gets in the way of singing, you need to kind of alleviate and just let the artistry comes out. Let the sound, just the pure air, chords, sound. And Pavarotti was asked, he says, how do you do what you do? You're the best singer in the world. What do you do? He says, I breathe, I sing. I know that's oversimplifying, but that's what we need to all think of, is that we're getting back to basics when we sing. And there should be a purity of sound. And I'm hoping over this week we can sort of talk about my ideas about how to get you there, and sort of little tricks of the trade, little things that are a little more based in really support and diaphragmatic support, and sort of getting you from one place to the next. So without further ado, I'd like to begin, and I want you to take good notes, because on Friday, I want you to be better than you were on Monday, okay? So let's get started. Whoever's first, please come right up. Hi, I'm Lucas. Nice to meet you, Aspen Jackson. What a name. It's beautiful. Pulls off the tongue.
Good afternoon. My name is Aspen Jackson. This is Charles Jongo. Together we will be performing Euch lüften die meine Klagen from Lohengrin by Richard Wagner.
So, beautiful voice, beautiful intro as well. So, I'm going to begin by talking about something that will help everyone in this room. And that's that when you are singing with vibrato, you are singing with no tension. If you have vibrato in every moment of your singing, that will help you to get through these phrases a little more. It shows that you're diaphragmatically connected and you're connected to your support. So what I want you to try is I want you to make sure that you have vibrato in every single second of every note you sing. And when you do, every vowel you sing, and when you do that, I want you to sort of break your mind and think that even, it's so important to have vibrato, you even have it in the voiced consonants.
Okay.
So let's start with all vowels first, and then we'll move into voiced consonants. All right, again, right just before she comes in, please. I'm going to stop you every time there's not vibrato.
Great.
So when we begin, the breath begins a split second before the sound begins.
Okay.
So it's not oh, it's not oh, it's oish. It's just wah, okay? Support to do this that you will have a tendency to run out of breath in the beginning, but that just means you need to tank up a little bit better. So when we talk about breath, it's a really difficult thing because it's hard to just explain it and it's hard to describe, but it's easier to see. So I'm just going to show you what happens. Is that it comes out bottom up. And so it goes down here, and like you're filling a glass of water, it fills from the bottom up. Your air never goes or this way, it's this way, and then it comes out. So I'll show you what I do for a breath. I like to breathe it out on a s, and then breathe in. So that's the breath, okay? And then it's just this buoyant little balloon underneath you as you slowly let out air, and I'm just letting it out here. So, okay, so nice full breath that comes from the bottom up, okay? And great job with vibrato on everything. That's really hard to do.
Thank you.
Letting too much air out while you're singing. So I need you to hold it back just a little bit. So there's a couple options. I'll show you extremes of both. So we got euch liften sage, and I'm already out of breath, okay? And then we've got too much holding, which is euch liften sage. It's right in that middle. We're finding opera singing so much about finding the Goldilocks zone for you personally. On so many things. And with support, it's the same way. With placement, it's the same way. I need the placement to be a little less, and you're the first person I'm ever telling this to. A little less out here and a little more here. So let's bring your finger into play. I want you to hit your finger with the sound, okay? Imagine that the sound's going here and going bang, right here. So you're holding a little bit back for yourself. Think 85%, okay? the support is there from the beginning.
Sorry.
Okay, try that phrase again. I think you can get through it.
Okay.
Almost. Did you hear the straight tone?
Yes.
Okay, but honestly, that's fine. I'm good with the straight tone because you can fix that. Now you're starting to hear it yourself. What I'm not good with is the breath you're taking.
Okay.
Because when you're taking the breath, it's almost like a half breath, and you're losing breath. And as you sing one phrase, when you tank up again, the breath, I like to call it riding up on you. It sort of rides up. Everyone's had this problem, especially with a faster aria. It's like, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, oh God, and you're at the end, and you're like, well, I don't even know why I sing this piece. So you can do this. So every time, take the time. I don't care about the tempo. I just want a good full breath every time, and I want you to come in on an invigorated breath. Okay? Because I feel like you're losing a little bit of air with how you start each phrase. And then all of a sudden, if you start with so much air, you've already tanked up and you've lost, a fifth of your air, and you don't have time to get through the rest. So use it a little more intelligently, okay?
I'm sorry.
That's okay, that's okay.
Thank you.
Yeah. Vibrato. So right now, the breath is just a little high. It's a little in your chest, so I'm getting, it's a lower breath, all right? And okay, so you know what? Everybody stand up. I got an idea for us. All right, this is what we're going to do. So the way you feel support kick in is by leaning. Anyone ski? Here in North Carolina, who skis? Really? Yeah, I figured there wouldn't be many hands. I took ski class at Appalachian State University, which was like skiing on rocks. But all right. So anyway, when you ski, you lock your boots in and you lean forward. All right. If you lean forward far enough, and again, I don't want to have your son a waver, but don't fall over when you're doing this. Okay. So when you lean forward, right as you fall forward, of course, catch yourself. You're going to feel your support kick in, and there it is, right there. So everybody, try. Wait, let's watch once. Let's have one person do it. All right. Lean forward until you fall, and you'll feel it. You feel it kick at the last second.
Yeah.
It goes whoop like that. That is the kind of support we need, just as a consistent measure. Okay. Everyone, give it a shot. Carefully. All right. Right as you start to fall, you feel it go whoop right here. This is where you're going to feel it. All right. That's called support. That's your diaphragm. That's like in there working down here. Okay. That's what you want to feel. Anyway. Okay. Sit down and hope you feel it. So anyway, that's what we need. We need that to kick in, and it's that sweet Goldilocks zone we need to find. Right now, you're letting a little too much air out. Yes, got it. We're letting a little too much air out in a sort of way rather than a sort of way. And that's not saying anything. I can do much better than what I just did. Okay, so I just need your support to be a little more under you. When you're letting the air out, it needs to come out a little more slowly. The first breath's a little bit deeper in this direction. Okay? Take your time. I don't care about the tempo, okay? Sure. Take your time to take a good breath before everything, okay? Right where you were. So. We have to start zo with vibrato and intensity, okay? stop you. That was a great breath. I just wanted to make sure you took the time to do it. Please continue. Great.
Can we fold key? Okay. Sorry.
I'm sorry, you need a better breath for that, okay? Otherwise, we're not going to make it. Everything but lead bad. That needs vibrato too, okay? I think actually we have to stop because of timing.
Okay.
I'm sorry I didn't let you sing
No,
the
that's
keys,
okay.
but I'm glad we discussed this. Even if you're starting to get it now, and I want you to keep moving forward with this in a practice room because really, the way you're taking a breath now is much more.
I'm not Vowel, my teacher.
Yeah, you might have heard this before, I imagine. Okay, that's great. That's great. Really, brava. It was wonderful. Keep working on this, and you're going to get there. Really. Just a quick little recap. Vibrato equals breath support. If I say vibrato, that's what I want more of. I want more support. If I say repeat the vowel, there's a few ways to tell people this without saying, because if I say support more, most people go, ugh. Okay? And that's not what I'm asking for. So I'm going to use little tricks and words to try and get what I want from your support. Okay? Who's next? Hi, I'm Lucas.
I'm Olivia.
Hi, nice to meet you. Pleasure. Thank you.
Hi everyone, my name is Olivia Bagos, this is Luba Egarova, and together we will be performing Lori's song from the Tenderland by Aaron Copeland.
So you've got a really interesting voice because the way you use your voice, I really like. When you sing anything between a D and an F, you support. When you don't, you use about 15% too little support.
Okay.
So there's a repeat here. I actually wrote it down. Now that all the learning's done. You supported this phrase, and you started without support. Don't get me wrong. In a masterclass setting, if I just said, sing it again for me, will you? She'd sing it twice as good. So it's not, everyone, it's okay. You're great. But when you got to this point, that's the support that I liked, and I would like to hear from the beginning of the piece.
Okay.
Is this support that's underneath you? I know I'm really talking about support a lot, but without breath, we can't sing. So would you please start again from the beginning, and I want the same sort of support that you have in your middle voice, around D to F,
Okay.
in that lower start. Okay? So let's start it again.
Once
See, this is it right here. Once. I want a little more support. I hate to say think operatically.
Okay.
Give it a shot. Give it a shot and let's see where it takes us. Okay?
Once I thought I'd never grow tall as this fence.
How did that feel?
Freer.
Excuse me. I'm not asking you. How did that feel? Yeah, right? Okay. So you have the same, I used to do the same thing. I totally relate to you because I was really good at singing, just not opera when I was young. I could sing like anything poppy. You like sing karaoke or anything like that? Or do you sing at church? Surely you sing, you got a beautiful voice. Anyway, okay. It's a very light sound that you don't need to have be so light.
Yeah.
Because all you have to do is energize your core a little bit and all of a sudden the sound pops out and it sounds even better than just your natural sound. And what that says to me is you're listening to yourself. You're literally listening to yourself and judging your sound and then allowing it to go out a little bit rather than trusting that your sound is going out in a beautiful way because you've done everything right up until the point that the sound goes out.
Okay.
Did that make sense?
Yeah.
Did that
sounds
make
very
sense?
accurate.
It made sense to me. I'm just making sure that you're okay, cool. All right, do it again.
Okay. Once I thought.
I need once. You got into this cutesy thing. Once I thought.
Once I thought I'd never grow tall as this fence. Time dragged heavy and slow.
Nice, support.
But April came and August
See, that's the
went.
support. You hear came. That comes out. That's the support I need a little bit more of on the middle stuff. Okay? Right when you get to I've circled every time you support properly in this piece of paper. So look at it afterwards. Anyway, the came. Do you feel that the way you supported that word?
Yeah.
That's the support I need a little bit lower.
Okay.
So let's start again from but April came.
But April came.
But I need the support to start right from the beginning. Okay?
But April came and August went.
If you sing if you just sing bot, it'll fix it.
But
No, you're singing but. I want the vowel to be bot, like a robot.
But April came and August went before I knew just what they meant.
If we can open that vowel a little more, it'll be prettier. So you sort of merge. I'm hearing and now what I need is in the back. So never mind. I'm not going to talk about vowel placement here. We're going to get there. Okay. So let's just try it one more time, and I want you to open the vowel a little bit. August went before I knew just what they meant. I just need you to open your mouth a little bit more. Yeah.
Before I knew just what they meant.
That's it, exactly. All right, I just want to talk for everyone else's sake about how to open your mouth as a singer, okay? So we have this head on our shoulders, and our mouth is here. So a lot of people say, open your mouth, like this, okay? Think about it. This doesn't move, ever. It's not anatomically possible to move your upper jaw up. So this, okay, forget about this. Then they say, open your mouth. Oh, here it is, open your mouth. That's kind of it, but this is what I'm asking for. This, okay? Everyone take your fingers, put them right here, underneath sort of where your ears meet your little jaw, okay? And I want you to open your mouth as wide as you can and feel a pocket form back in there. You can stick your finger in this pocket. If you don't feel this, let me know and I will come and help you. Feel the pocket? That is too far open for an ah vowel in opera. That's too far. Right when the pocket closes, you can do this in a practice room. This is how you find your ah proper mouth shape. Right when you find the jaw closes and that hole is closed, that is where your proper ah vowel is. Try this for me. Ah, you feel the hole? Too far, close it, just as it closes. That's what I'm talking about. A nice analogy to think of here is that you have two wine corks between your back molars. Okay? Because it's not something that's really hard, and it's not something that's totally soft. Something between your back molars. So when you sing, it's not ah, it's ah, and all of a sudden you have more space in the back. Okay? That's what I'm asking you to do. Okay. Exactly. Right there.
But April came and August went before I knew just what they meant. And little by little it came to me, that line between the earth and sky came beckoning to me.
Once I thought.
Once I
That's all right.
thought.
Sorry. No problem. It's okay. You're doing so well. Now, once I thought.
Once I.
No, not
Yeah.
once. Once. Remember, this is always here. This space is always going to be there. Okay.
Once I
Now
thought.
with vibrato.
Once I thought I'd never go.
So you hear it goes once I thought beautiful and then it's straight tone and it honestly sounds a little bit under pitch. It's not really under pitch, but because it was so beautiful and spinny before, the sound itself fell flat rather than was pitch flat. If that makes sense.
Yes.
Okay. Once I thought, and you know what's really hard about this is that you have to spin a phrase that goes from here all the way to here with perfect breath support. And then you start again, and you spin another phrase. Okay, so that's what I want. I want one whole phrase. And just because it is in English doesn't mean that it shouldn't still have this sort of operatic thread, this thread from the beginning to the end of a phrase. Okay?
Once I thought I'd never go outside this fence. This space was plenty for me. But I walked down the road one day, and just what happened I can see.
That is such a good sound when you do that. That's such a good sound. It's such a great amount of support. Just to say it, when you straight tone, okay, actually I'll tell everybody. So when you straight tone, you are holding something within your body. For the most part, when you have vibrato, as it's a natural occurrence in the voice, you are not holding anything. It's just happening and spinning at the speed at which your vibrato spins. Some people make their vibrato with their jaw or their tongue or their throat. I'm not talking about those people. Of course, no one's here that does that. But anyway, for the most part, vibrato is a natural occurrence. So when you straight tone, it's a choice you are making. And that means you're holding something. Okay? And I like it. But what you have to do is go back to the point where you can sing a piece with nothing but vibrato the entire time, and then make an intellectual decision to straight tone something in order to obtain an effect. Okay?
Yeah.
Straight toning is an effect. It's not natural. And musical theater singers do it all the time, so I'm not against it. I just think we should be able to do it as artists. We should be able to have vibrato in every second and choose when not to. Okay? That's, I think, all I wanted to say. Okay. Please. Yeah, where are we going from? You pick it.
The second verse? Once I thought I'd never go outside this fence. This space was plenty for me.
I'm going to give you a tool. It's in my pocket, and it's your hand. Okay? So, what you do is you start with your hand over here, and I swear this is the dumbest thing, but it works every time for vibrato. if you take your hand and you do this, and when you start the phrase, you do this, you will sing with vibrato.
Okay.
This is the craziest thing. So I want you. Once I thought I'd never, whatever. Okay, that's how it goes.
Once I thought I'd never grow tall as this fence. Time dragged heavy and slow, but April came and August went before I knew just what they meant.
Matt, I need that space back here. You're only opening this. You're only doing this. I need this, okay?
Okay.
Just before I knew just what day, where are we? Thank you. Knew just what they meant. I knew just what they meant.
Before I knew just what they meant.
Yes!
But little by little it came to be.
And there too. B. A little open. It said B. I'm getting just E.
Okay.
I need it in the back, which is this part of this, and E in the front.
Okay.
Okay? We're getting into vowel modification here. However, I actually want you to skip to the end now,
Okay.
because I want you to finish strong in the end, and then we'll talk about the high notes. So now that all the learning's done. Right now your mouth shape is getting in the way.
Okay.
And if you just relax it a little bit, and I have a tool for this too. It's in my other pocket. All right. If you take your hand and you just simply you're not pushing, you're literally just placing your hands on your face. And I want you, as you sing this phrase, just pull your hands down your face with no tension at all. So now, and it's all to remind you that instead of it being now I thought I'd always go and sing with a closed mouth shape, it's now I'm open here right now, the sound's always coming out. Okay? Those are the new words to this piece.
Now that all the learning's done.
Now with vibrato every second.
Now that all the learning's done. Oh,
Again.
who knows what will now begin? Oh, it's so strange. I'm strange inside.
Breath.
The time has grown so short.
Nice big breath.
The world so
Nice. I like that actually because it was consistent vibrato in the end. I think we want to try it one more
Yeah.
time, and the only thing I want you to think up on the high note while you're doing this is that you're already saying the right vowel. You just need consistent
Yeah.
vibrato. Don't think about the decrescendo
Okay.
until you're about to run out of breath, and then decrescendo and go duh.
Okay.
Okay?
Okay. The world so
Duh. Great job. I think we should have drawn on it. That's good. Real good. Beautiful job. All right, so we got into a few other things there, and what did we talk about? I don't even remember. How have I already forgotten what I taught you? Okay, so yeah, these are kind of tricks here that we're talking about that are just to keep you relaxing your mouth and are always open. It's funny, when we speak, we have a very closed mouth shape, so you never want to sing with the mouth shape of where you speak. However, the placement of where we speak, for the most part, is normally correct. You ever listen to yourself on a voicemail, and you think, I can't believe I sound like that. That's not my voice. I'm like the king of this. I hate my voice when I listen to it on a voicemail. But you have to trust that sort of placement. If I just add a little support to where I speak, I end up speaking right here. And that's good enough to sing this song. And then I just add a little mouth shape. And that's sort of it, you know? That's sort of, I know it's oversimplifying. Anyway, let's move on to the next person and we'll keep building on our fount of knowledge, okay? Hi. I'm Lucas.
I'm Elizabeth. Nice to meet you.
Elizabeth, nice to meet you as well. Is this my music? Or your music that I get to borrow?
Hello, my name is Elizabeth Thompson, and this is Luba Egoroba, and together we will be singing Zdez Horosho by Rachmaninoff. Zdez Horosho.
Somebody who might be. So how'd she do? How's her diction? Здесь хорошо. All right, great. Well, if we have any diction things come up, I'm looking to you. So anyway, first of all, beautiful voice. My gosh, it's incredible. So what I want to talk to you about, and it's an everybody thing. I feel like we're all just a big group here trying to learn about how to make ourselves, the best singers we can be. When I talk about vowel shape, we've already talked about this sort of thing for mouth shape, but I want to talk about the actual vowel itself. And I'm talking a vowel spectrum. So your vowel spectrum right now, and in Russian, the vowel spectrum is a little bigger than most. In French, it's a little bigger than most. In German, a little bigger. It's bigger than the Latin languages like Italian and Spanish, and even in English, it's very big. So I want to think more Italian in this, and with your vowel shapes only. Because right now I'm getting ah. Your ah vowel is fantastic. Your e vowel is a little bit spread, and so I want to bring it all closer together. And I have an exercise just for this purpose. So we're going to take the Italian vowels, which are a, e, o, and u, and I want them to become very close to each other to the point that you cannot tell that you have changed from one vowel to the next. You just magically have arrived so slowly at that vowel, all of a sudden you're just in that vowel. So may I have D major, and I'll show you what I'm talking about. So I'm going to go from A, E, to O, to U. And hopefully in one breath. But you can take as many breaths as you want to accomplish this, okay? When you try it after I show you how it's done, hopefully. Too low. Let's go maybe look for you too. Let's see. What are we doing here? Yeah, that's perfect. That's perfect. So we're going e, o, u. And the trick here is not to go too far away from the entire time. So that your E is just sort of not E. Okay? Give it a shot. Take as many breaths as you want.
Okay.
But the trick is we can't tell when you've changed vowels. Okay?
Breaths are okay, vowels.
Breaths are okay. Yes.
Okay.
I can take.
Yeah.
Go back to E, and get to E slowly, and I'll point to you when you're singing E that I want.
Okay.
That's E. This is the hardest one. This is the hardest one. Take a breath, and it takes a long time to get to O. Nope. Go back to E. Do you see the difference between that E and the other?
Yeah.
Yours is E. I want E. Yes. No, go back and try. No, it's ya. Thinking ya gets you there without going ya.
Okay.
We'll take it. Now, oo is only O with rounded lips.
Okay. Yeah.
So you got O, which is a little too close to O in my opinion. So let's open that just a little to O. Yes. Now round those lips. That's it. That's your oo. Okay? That's what I want you, that's how I want you to sing. Great job, Edo. It's really hard to do. It's really hard to do. Okay. Those are the vowel shapes I want around all of these very difficult Russian consonants. Здесь хорошо. Did I do that okay? Yeah. Okay. That's all right. Okay, let's start it again, please. And I want these vowel shapes, okay? Now, you started listening to yourself on show.
Yeah.
Okay? It was out, listening to myself, and it starts to come backwards a little bit. So let's bring our finger out and put that sound on your finger if you don't mind.
Okay.
I need the vowel to vibrate, please. So I'm getting zliani, and then you're in, okay? Tell them that this is going well, and that the reason we do this is that in a small room like this, when you change your vowel to, instead of I, you go I, E, like that. In this room, the difference in your phrase is like this. In a hall with 1,000, 2,000 people, the difference in your phrase is this. Okay? So what I'm trying to accomplish here is a phrase that sounds consistently in a large space. And by doing that, we modify vowels so that they sound 100 feet away from us, like the right vowel, but right next to us, it's not quite correct. It's cheating at its best. Okay? So that was a great job with what you've been doing. Let's move on.
With the finger still?
Please. Your mouth shape is z, but that doesn't mean you can have to go здесь. Okay?
Здесь нет людей, здесь тишина, здесь только Бог.
And tol is not close. Tol.
it.
Yeah, okay, good. That's wonderful. If you can feel it, you can fix it. Okay? And we'll trademark that tomorrow. Please, we have
Sveti.
perfect. We have to think about vowel modification. And now, for any of you taking notes, let me think about this first. Hold on. Yeah, okay. Modifies to E modifies to Wait, no, hold on, I almost got it. E modifies to and modifies to schön. O umlaut. Okay? So when you're up here, and when I say modify, I mean like 1 to 3%. So your backspace is what modifies, okay? It's back here. This is getting very technical, by the way. So I hope we're all on board and happy and ready to move down the track with this train because it's pulling out of the station. So so your is on point. You're singing . But to get those overtones and those ringing overtones, I need back here. Okay, the back, remember the wine corks back here behind our molars? That's the space where we need okay? So your is great here, and then what's the word? What's the word? Dati.
Dati.
But you're going to sing E up there. So what I need is da. So you can practice this marking down the octave, actually. So if I'm going to do it, I'm going to go da. So I'm E in the front, E in the, I might have modified too much then to show you what the modification is I'm asking for.
Yeah.
So this is so hard, but I think you can do it. So I went in the front, in the back, and then when you switch the vowel, E in the front, I in the back.
Okay.
And then you have to do this.
I can do that one.
I'm just kidding. Okay, so let's try that, okay? Whenever you're ready.
Do you want me to do it up the octave or down the octave?
I want it. Oh, good question. Try it down the octave. Let's just see. I've never done it first that way.
Okay.
Just at your own pace. Now I need you to open your mouth. Yes. And forgive me, but even Anna Trebko up there does not do the
Yeah.
Up there, she just sings T.
Yeah.
Okay, so if you switch it to E with a little bit of A.
But not E, the better Italian E.
Yes, exactly. Yes, that's the A in the back. I hear it right
Yeah, I
here.
can hear
You
it.
got it, exactly. Give it a shot.
Okay, from the higher.
Yeah. No, that's
Yeah.
I need
Yeah.
It's people call it the bow and arrow effect. I don't know. How do y'all describe it? Like teachers here, what do you like to say? I sort of think this way, you know, like it's like a bow and arrow where you're doing two things at once that make no sense when you're doing it, but it works. Okay, so you're singing out here, in the back, sort of in this direction, and I would so love to give this a shot, but it's too high for me. So yeah, so it's like, and a way to trick yourself into doing it is going forward back. I can do it on a G, so it's like. So it's forward and back immediately. It's like okay? Give that a shot.
Okay.
Let's just get this first note right. I'm sorry, I saw you jump like a foot. She's just taking a nap, that's fine. Just kidding. Just kidding.
Okay.
The actual pitch, sorry. I pitch. A little bit more. Because right now you're listening to yourself.
Yeah.
All right, Mark, how are we doing?
We are. It's not time.
Oh, lovely. Okay, great. It's a short song, so I'm glad we're working on it. All right, great. So I need this sound always out. Not listening and judging whether or not you're dead on or anything. Make all the mistakes you want right now in this safe space. Okay. I need the sound to just simply come out of your body. Okay. And I think it might help if we walked around a little bit for this, because right now I'm feeling a little bit of shoulder tension. Actually, you know what? Why don't we do this? Let's, you know what? Stand up. Let's give it some shoulder tension. All right. That's what I like to do. So, let's start and roll your shoulders this way. Oh, it feels so nice. Do about 5 of those. Now let's switch and go this direction. And while we're at it, we might as well roll out our heads. So, I don't like to go backwards when I roll my head because I feel a little kink in there sometimes. So I just go about shoulder to shoulder like this. Are you doing this with? Yeah, you're doing something. Okay. I just kind of do like this a few times. Oh, it actually feels really nice. Okay, shake it out. All right, so then I like to lift my shoulders and just drop them like 3 times. And then everything gets all relaxed. Oh, okay, that's great. Feeling good?
Yeah.
All right, let's give this sit down. Thank you. Let's give this another shot. I want you to walk back and forth, and when you're prepped and ready, and you have the vowel shape of ah with it with in the back, give it a whirl. No, that's not it. That's not it.
Yeah.
So what you're doing, you're getting the pitch below and quickly carrying it up.
Yep.
And it's not that. It's a punch. It's almost a punch. It's what happens is the thing that happens when we fall over. It goes wah, and right now it's just too easy for you.
Yeah.
And that means that you're not doing it quite correctly because it needs to really come from the bottom up. Da, da. It really is right there. It's just a punch. Did you feel that when we did this sort of lean over thing? That's the kind of intensity we need to get you up there. Okay.
Okay.
Walk. Thank you. When you open your mouth, your sound comes out so much more. That's really great. That's much better. I just want to hear it again. I think you can do better.
Yeah.
This time, don't even pretend you're modifying. Just sing da, te.
Okay.
So what are we singing?
Da, te.
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 Okay. Da, I heard you the first time. And fit. You look super fit because you've been going to the gym.
Okay.
Okay? Okay?
Okay.
Support. Dead on. That's where you need to be. It's just one little bit up that way. So if you went back, how you feeling? What was that?
No, I'm fine. I was just like, that was like a nervous thing.
Okay, all right, great. So, did you hear the second? Yeah, did you hear the second note? Is exactly what I was talking about. So, what I want you to practice, I want you to go in the practice room and know that you can do that second note and carry that space up. So work on it in reverse. All right? Because if you can go you can go in the exact same space. It's pretty much the same space. Because, like we showed before, e, o, and oo. Well, I, o, are right next to each other. So if you're singing they're right next to each other. So now you have done one of them successfully, which means you can do the other successfully. All right? Really? That was the sweetest sneeze ever. All right. Okay, so I'm going to send you off with that, knowing that the second one is correct. The first one's not quite there, but you can get there from the second one. Okay? Thank you so much. Bravo. Oh, hey, I'm Lucas. Nice to meet you. Paul.
Hello, my name is Paul Miller. This is Ella Gabatov, and we will be performing Verborgenheit by Hugo Wolf.
Unbekanntes Welt,
repertoire.
What do you like about it? What do you like about it? I love this
I guess,
song.
yeah, I really like the part where it goes, where you get all big right there.
Yeah, me too.
After starting small, yeah.
What about the text? What do you think about the text?
I think it's a interesting message how you're kind of letting the world know you kind of want to be on your own. You want to be who you are, I guess. So I think that it's something that you can definitely relate to in a way.
Yeah. How do you relate to it personally? Like, you don't have to go too deep into personal reasons, but I'm wondering, like, how do you relate to it?
I guess sometimes it's nice to be able to go back into your own corner, so to say, and be able to think how you want to think or feel how you want to feel. And I feel like that's one of the ways that one of the things that the text is trying to convey, as far as let me be, to experience my pain, my passion, my joy.
Or whatever it is, your solace, you know, you get a little time to yourself. I love that. I just wanted to know why you chose this, because I love this piece too. And you spoke so eloquently about it. I want to feel that when you're doing it. You know, and that's why I asked, is because you don't pick a piece like this, and you don't learn a piece like this unless you really care about the piece. And I want to feel that more when you're performing, that you love it. I also want to get on to some technical stuff, but I just want to leave you with that. Think about what this piece means to you, and the next time you sing it, really be in that moment. All right, I want to start it again, and I want you to concentrate on a couple things. One is, what you probably know I'm going to say, vibrato. Obviously, I'm cracked the whip on that. So I would like for you to concentrate on vibrato, try and have it in every moment, and I want you to walk around the piano while you're singing it, okay? So go ahead and start walking. I don't care when you start, just walk around the piano the entire time. And vibrato, from the beginning. So you went lost, you already lost it. Just keep it going the whole time. I have a secret to tell you. Okay. The reason I'm having you go around the piano is because I'm trying to get you to stop moving your right hand. Oh. So when you do this, okay, so I need everything relaxed, all right? I just need you to walk around the piano, okay? Try it again. Excuse me, but that was actually the best start you had. What did you do?
Saying wrong vowel.
Well, whatever vowel it was, it's your vowel, because it was great. Now, finally, you locked into a bit of support there, all right? I think you might be afraid of your support, and either you're listening to yourself or you're afraid of it, okay? I don't know. First of all, your vibrato is beautiful.
Thank you.
You should have permission to use it at all times from me. I'm giving you my permission. And I'm encouraging you to do so, okay? So I need a little bit more support from you. What you just started with is exactly what I was moving towards getting you to do slowly, but you just did it, so just do it, okay? Now with vibrato, every second. All right, 1 second. We're going to pick up right where we left off. I want you to put your hands here and pull them down while you sing, okay? Every phrase you're replacing. That's what it's going. Keep on. I just got to get this vibrato out of you. I want you to support 35% more than you're thinking you're supporting right now.
Okay.
35%. It's pretty exact, so I want it. And I want you to start over here and do this for every phrase, okay? Give it a shot. Was ich traue.
Okay.
Was ich traue. 35%.
Was ich nicht.
I'm sorry, I'm complimenting you.
Oh,
Please
okay. Was ich traue. Was ich nicht. Es ist unbekanntes Werk.
One second. So nicht rücket. Sorry, this is a little. So was ich traue. Start again there. Here, take it.
Oh, okay. Oh, yeah.
There you go. Don't use
Oh,
it,
yeah,
but
right.
now you know where we are, right?
That was, yeah, this is like.
Yeah, just skip to the end. That's
Yeah,
all right.
okay. Was ich traue, was ich nicht.
See what it looks like.
Es ist unbekanntes Werk.
His vibrato got better. There you go.
Dadurch Tränen seh, ich bekanntes Liebeslied.
And we're over here. There you go.
Oft bin ich
Right here.
bewusst und die helle Freude sucket
Great.
durch die Schwere, so mich drücket, vor mich liegt.
Do that again. No, vibrato. That's what this stands for. Right. You got this. Get it out there.
Vor mich liegt in meiner Ruhe.
Carry through. Off.
Lass over
Every second.
und lass mich sein.
There you
Locket nicht mit Liebesgaben. Lass
No.
dies, lass,
Vibrato.
lass dies Herz alleine haben.
Big finish.
Seine
No. That's why this is here.
Seine Wonne, seine Pein.
Nicely done. Bravo. Really good. So the reason we support is because our sound sounds better when we do. I mean, if you don't listen to yourself, which honestly everyone in the world does this, everyone in the world starts doing this, you just have to train yourself to not do it. Don't rely on listening to yourself. I'll tell you what actually happens when you listen to yourself is it means you're singing from your lips backwards so you can hear yourself super well. And if you're singing from your lips backwards, you sound good to yourself and not so much to everyone else. You have to trust that your sound is going out. I tell everyone in the world, I say everyone has their own unique vocal fingerprint that's only their own. You only sound like yourself, which is evident when you hate what you sound like on your voicemail, which we all have agreed that we do. So, because you only sound like yourself, why try and sound like anything else? Because that's the only thing that makes you unique. It's the only thing you got going for you vocally is that you sound like yourself. All right? I thought about it a few years back because I was wondering why famous people are famous, especially opera singers. And they're only famous because they only sound like themselves, which means they are singing in their truest form. And that's normally their best form. All right? So when you try and add something, you try and make something, you're working against yourself rather than just allowing the air to go up and over the chords and out in the purest fashion you possibly can. And the way you achieve that is through consistent support and placement outside of your body. So I'd like to open it up to questions if you have any. I guess I covered everything about singing today. You're so welcome. Yes, Melody.
Could you talk about phrasing and coloring while maintaining your vocal fingerprint?
Yeah, about phrasing and coloring while maintaining your vocal fingerprint. Absolutely. First off, I just want to say thanks for turning pages yesterday. And additionally, so to answer that question, the first thing, the most important thing is that your sound is consistent in a house. That it's always, this phrase continues on and on. You can literally, I tell people all the time, it's like you can learn perfect diction. You can learn musical history. You can learn what Mozart ate for breakfast when he wrote the overture to the Marriage of Figaro. You know, you can go down the rabbit hole so far, but if you cannot make a consistent sound that people can hear, you've learned all that information to not share it with your public because they can't hear you, because you're inconsistent. So I'd say that all of that stuff comes secondarily to a consistent, beautiful sound. And so once you have reached that consistently beautiful sound, which I'm sure everyone here has, you start to think about phrasing, and it's all within the structure of that beautiful sound, within the structure of that beautiful singing. If you went to my recital last night, I like to think that I did that pretty well. However, I sang a lot softer in my recital in Meacher, what do you say, Meacher Auditorium. I sang a lot softer in Meacher Auditorium than I would ever sing with orchestra in an opera house. But I could do it because it's a beautiful hall that you can hear a pin drop, you know. I went a little further because of my venue, but I'm also a trained professional. So at this point, I recommend you always sing sort of at your optimal with consistent vibrato throughout as much as possible, and you will impress people more with that than some sort of intellectual take on an art song or intellectual take on a piece. It's good to have that angle and that side, and you learn about all of these things, and you learn about history, and you learn what Mozart had for breakfast, and then you forget it to perform. You put in all the legwork so that you can literally just let it go and be in the character, in the moment. Okay, another question? Well, I can just talk about myself then. Oh, here's one back here, yeah.
What is the biggest thing that you, at least recently in the past few years, feel like you hear young professional singers do that you think is really, really stupid and they shouldn't do?
Let me rephrase that. What's the biggest problem I hear young singers have these days? Great question. I would say exactly what I just said. That they try and, in an effort to sound either louder or more musical, they sacrifice the beauty of their own tone in order to achieve a theoretical tone because they're listening to themselves. And don't get me wrong, I want you all to be beautiful musical creatures. You know, I want you all to have your own musical ideas. You should, as artists, have your own musical ideas, absolutely. But the way to implement them, I didn't know how to implement them myself when I was in college, you know. I had wonderful ideas that I thought I was getting across to everyone. But oftentimes, your ideas don't come across to the audience in the way that you want. And that's what we're trying to shape here, is that if you have this foundation in place of quality singing at all times, you can stack anything on top of that foundation. But if your foundation is cracked and made up and stuffed with agenda or habits that are bad or musical knowledge that you just want to sort of impose upon an audience, that's not a good foundation. That's all the stuff, that's the icing on the cake, you know? And that's what I hear a lot of young singers do incorrectly these days. Yeah?
Do you think that some of that has to do with young singers not trusting themselves to sound good?
I think it's part of a great thing, especially in America. When we're talking about the American university system, it's a very different thing than Europe, because I think the United States has probably the best musical training in the world for voice and opera. And that can sometimes be a little overwhelming, where we place impetus on so many things that should be the foundation of your knowledge of music, like history and oral skills and theory and just everything that you're working on right now, most likely. All those classes are there for a reason, and they're important, and they're so important to have as your educational foundation for music. But when it comes to singing, it's a slightly different ballgame. You know, it's like you have now built your knowledge in order to impose it, not impose, that's a bad word, in order to transpose it over to this foundation that you have built that's of good singing. So, did that answer your question? I feel like I've totally forgotten what it was in the first place.
It did, because I think that I was trying to define what we were talking about, but you redirected it to that.
Yeah, oh good. Anyway, this is what I'm about. I'm all about singing at your maximum level as much as you possibly can, sort of in this way that's healthy, that's properly supported, and that the placement of the sound is always in a certain spot, that it's going to shimmer in a hall at all times, rather than some weird heartbeat that goes down like this, in the phrase. And with you, it was a little bit of the vowels. Sometimes your vowels, it works well in this hall. But I've got a name for it. I call them rehearsal room singers, who sound like they're going to rule the world and just break the walls of the theater down in this small space, or in a voice studio. And then you get on stage and you're like, what? I can't even hear that person. It's crazy. You can't hear them over the orchestra. And oftentimes it's because they're singing lips back, listening to themselves. And it just doesn't work, in my experience. Any other questions? Yeah.
You talked about being overwhelmed. Is there something, or like thought or whatever, that you should rely on?
Overwhelmed in what way?
Overwhelmed by like a task at hand, or by like you talked about all the information that everyone's trying to learn and all that stuff.
Oh, totally. Yeah, okay, so the question is, do you ever feel overwhelmed with all the stuff that's being thrown at you, especially now that you're also taking probably social science and math and geography? That's probably not a thing. I don't know. Whatever classes you're taking, of course you're going to feel overwhelmed. But, I mean, if you're singing for fun, you should milk as much out of this experience as you can. Because it's a great experience. It's a wonderful opportunity. I'm so happy to be here to share this with you, If you're thinking about career or moving on to the next level of singing, you have to make sure that you sing at your best at all times. And you have to get out of whatever is going on. But again, it's kind of a double-edged sword for me. You have to have the knowledge over here. You have to have it. You have to, be fluent. No, well, not fluent, but you have to be, your Italian diction has to be on point. French, German, Russian. Where'd you go? There she is. Russian. And then, yeah, okay. It's got to be on point. And you have to learn all that in order so that this is maximized, okay? And I'm just going to keep coming back to this, because what I'm saying is this is your vocal foundation, all right? So if your vocal foundation is not totally on point, that should be the most important thing, if that's what you want to do. And if you're, singing a few art songs for fun and it's a minor, I get that too. It's a fantastic thing. I love it. I love doing this. I love it. And I love what you all did today. I'm really impressed. I have to say, everyone that sang today, bravi tutti. It was fantastic, And so, I don't know, man. There's so many ways to go about this thing and still get a lot out of it. Be it listening, be it as an audience member, be it as a participant, be it as the guy that paints the sets, It's like there's so many opportunities out there for musicians and for people to be artistic in every way. And whether or not you do this, the fact you're sitting in these seats means that you're ready to show up to a place and learn knowledge. And I say to people, I said 3 rules for like anything, success in anything. And it's show up on time, know your stuff, and don't be a mean person. All right. That's what I always say. No. Anyway, if you do those 3 things, you're going to succeed in anything you want to do. All right? So how much time do we have here, by the way? We have till...
I think most people have until 5.
Okay, if that's cool, then we'll keep answering a few other questions. And I just want to make sure you can get on to the next thing when you need to get on. So, okay, yes, please.
When did it click for you that you needed to focus more on just like singing at your best and instead of trying to do like what everyone else like portrays as the best? Does that make sense?
Yeah, it makes sense.
Sorry.
No, I get it. Why don't you ask me again in a different way so everybody else can understand?
Sure. I guess for me personally, I struggle with trusting myself and like knowing that the way I am capable of singing is the right way for me, and I try to be like everyone else around me. So when did it click for you that you're like, cool, I'm gonna do me and just me,
Yeah.
and that works for me?
Well, first off, No, I like it. I'm going to get to it, but I'm going to get to it sound a kind of roundabout way.
Sure.
First off, none of you are in competition with anyone else in this room. You're only in competition with your best self. All right? That's what we're all trying to achieve, is becoming the best us we can be. All right? So if there's a soprano out there that sings the same rep as you, you don't care about her because you're about you. All right? And that's not just you. That's everyone in this room. If there's and don't get me wrong. I look at some baritones and I'm like, I should be singing that, whatever, but I try to live like this, and because at the end of the day, I just need to go out there and do the best I can and sing at the highest level I can. I totally lost your question. Please. I'll give you a third shot at this.
No, it's fine. How do I word it?
I think you worded it perfectly. I just forgot.
Just trusting that what you're putting out is your best version and that,
Oh, yeah.
that it's good enough.
So, first of all, at this point, you should start to form a committee. I call it a committee. I don't know if you know, but I write a blog. You should check it out. It's called thebaritonblog.com. That's, again, thebaritonblog.com. It answers so many of these questions that you're talking about, and I'm still going to answer it. I'm just going to say there's a lot of information there that might help you if this is the sort of thing you're asking about. And But I'll just tell you a story. So I was at Eastman School of Music. I was a fifth-year senior. Yeah, I think that's about right. And I just transferred from Appalachian State for 4.5 years there. And I was singing for my teacher, 22 years old. And I finished, maybe 23. I finished an art song, German art song. And he said, it was perfect. I was like, it's not perfect. I know it's not perfect. I don't sound like Brent Terfel. I don't sound like Dmitri Vorodostovsky or Cheryl Milnes or Bastianini. I don't sound like any of those guys. Those guys are awesome. And I sound like a little pipsqueak next to those guys. But he was right. I was perfect. I was a perfect 22-year-old. And that's what you have to aspire to. You can't be a perfect 35-year-old at 22. You have to be a perfect 22-year-old at 22. Okay? So if you're trying to sing outside of yourself, that is a very harmful thing. This whole opera thing is all about the marathon, not the sprint. You guys are at the beginning if this is what you want to do. This is it, and I hated being told this when I was your age. And that doesn't mean there's not a ton of stuff to learn. There's not a ton of stuff for you to do. But it's very beginning stages, and you need to make sure. That's why this foundation is so important. And that's why I'm going back to talk to you guys about these things that start you off in the right direction for the foundation of quality singing. That's what we're talking about with the Goldilocks zone of support, perfect placement out here, and where's the best vibrato hand in the business? Where'd he go? There he is. Exactly. So, yeah, that's what I'm getting at. Yes, please.
So with so many professions, people are able to just leave their work at their office, or if they're playing another instrument, they can just leave it in their closet for a little bit. How do you reconcile, as a professional singer, being able to separate, or can you separate yourself as a person versus your singing profession? I don't know. It's been an idea that I've been very
It becomes harder and harder, honestly, the further down the road you get. Right now is actually a good opportunity because you can sing in college and then you can go to a different college class and enjoy learning about science or something else, And so it's really a lot easier. So I'd say take those moments, but also be responsible with your voice. And I'd say this, I am glad that I made a lot of mistakes in college because I learned my vocal limits in college, I was like, well, I can go out and party, and then I suck at my lesson the next day, And that's how you learn. So, a lot of people say, don't drink milk, don't eat peanut butter, don't do this. Honestly, don't listen to anybody. Try it. Fail here. Fail now. Because people will forgive you for failing now. They won't fire you or not hire you back. This is the place to fail. This is the most fail-friendly place in the world. So eat peanut butter. Drink milk. The one thing that got me? Vegan chicken salad from Whole Foods. I don't know why. I ate vegan chicken salad. I went to sing and I was like, it was the weirdest thing in the world. So now I know not to eat vegan chicken salad before a show. All right? But that's it for me. And bananas are safe for anyone, anytime, unless you're allergic to bananas. All right, one more question. Time for one more question. So, yes.
I'm just asking for my fellow kids. When you get a new piece, how do you practice, the steps to get it? And also old piece, how do you, all rows?
Okay, funny you ask. I have a blog about that. It's, so when you're learning a new piece, I practice it. Honestly, I break it apart. I do what people say you shouldn't do, and I actually listen to it. I just listen to it first, and I formulate ideas. I listen to somebody do it, and I formulate ideas about it. And while I'm listening to it the first time, I translate it, and the track goes by a lot faster than I can translate. So I back it up, and I listen. So I listen to it probably 5 or 6 times over the course of translating. Sorry, that's not the first step. First step's highlighting it and making the score look pretty. I love organized score. So I highlight my part in a yellow highlighter, and then I highlight every single dynamic marking in a pink highlighter, and then I put little tabbies on it so I know where my scenes are, and then I do that process of translating, and then I take it to a coach, and I work on it, sort of learn the notes and everything, and then I think about how to do things a little bit differently. We come into that artistic side than the people I hear doing it, and I learn more from people I hear doing it about what I don't want to do than about what I do want to do. So then I hear what they do, and I say, I think I'd prefer to have this emotion here, and I go that direction to make it my own. So that's how you do that. If it's with old music that you've done before, say you've just come across some new technique that your teacher's working on with you, and you've had a breakthrough, and all of a sudden, una voce poco fa doesn't feel quite as good, because it's all bad habits, old habits, and all of a sudden you're singing something over here that's a little more, in your new support, your new technique, all right? I'd either put that away for a year, 6 months, 2 years, just get rid of it, or work very slowly on only vowels on that old piece and sort of bring that new technique over and keep checking back in with the new technique piece to make sure it's in the same place. And then again, have your committee tell you what's going on. And your committee is a group that could be conductors, directors, your voice teacher, your coaches, a friend that really knows voice that you trust. It could be any of these people, but you need to start developing that committee to tell you your voice is on or is busted right now. You need to work on it, okay? So I think we're at time. So I just want to say thanks for having me.
So generous as to have a coffee drop-in with us.